Hey, what's up YouTube? This is actually a video I wanted to make for quite a while. It's on the new deck Despia, but before I made it, I wanted to do a lot of testing and different builds, and I looked up other builds of other YouTubers and online, and I feel like I have a good grasp of it, that I'm comfortable enough making a video that's good enough to put out there. The Despia deck is very interesting. There's many different builds you can use. This is the one I was using, which is a combination of the Invoked engine along with the little Predaplant engine. But there are different things you can do, and I'll be talking over like a lot of the different archetypes you can incorporate into this deck. So starting off, we have the first Despian monster. It's a normal card, which is great, and it's very powerful. The reason it's so good is because if it's in your graveyard, you can banish it and reset a spell or trap, which there's like two really powerful ones. And also if you use it for a fusion, or if it's sent as like a discard, but not as a cost, it doesn't get its effect from a cost. But if it's sent as a discard, you get to add a Despia, which is really useful. And then I run like generic hand traps like Maxx. The reason we run Predaplant in this engine is because Predaplant has a unique effect where when it's summoned, you can just fusion summon. And I think that's good because I want to be able to fusion summon my boss monster as much as possible. There's different engines you can run that's not Predaplant, but what Predaplant brings into this deck is you get to run the Predaplant fusions. This one allows you to banish, and it has like 3 effects which are pretty decent. And also you're able to go into Greedy Venom Fusion, which is very easy to make in this deck actually. And he has a pretty good effect where he can negate a monster on the field, and if he dies he can like reborn himself back. And then we run like hand traps. The reason I run the Invoked engine is because I want to also be able to make fusions, but the Invoked engine also allows you to get more resources because once you make a fusion, you're able to banish Aleister from the graveyard and then add him back to your hand. So you can either summon him next turn or you can use him as like a battle trap. So you can like discard him and increase your monster's attack. Generally, we only make fusions in this deck. Next, we got Fallen of Albaz. I ran him at 3, I ran him at 1. I don't really like this card. Yeah, he's cool. He can fuse your opponent's monsters, and then that can come up because you're able to make like this one monster. But he uses 3 dark monsters on the field. It can come up. You can use your opponent's monsters. He's kind of cool for that aspect, but he requires discard as a cost, and some of the card effects don't trigger off his effect. Like the first one, Despian Tragedy, doesn't get its effect even though it's discarded and sent to the graveyard. It just doesn't get the effect, which kind of sucks. And even though this guy is like the main guy in the entire deck, I just feel like you don't need him, which kind of sucks because, I mean, most of the fusions require him, you know? But there's another card you can run instead of him. Next we got this card. This card's absolutely amazing. You should always run 3 of it. In fact, if you just want to run a branded engine or a Despia engine, you definitely want to run this guy. Like, this guy's probably the MVP, the most important one in the deck. When he's normal or special summon, you can add a spell or trap, which is really useful. Also, if he's in a graveyard, your fusion leaves, you can bring him back. He has really good synergy with the field spell. He negates monster effects. He's cool. He's really cool. And next we got Dramaturge of Despia. This is a unique effect where if you bring out any Fusion, Synchro, XYZ, or Link monster, any monster that's from the extra deck, either special summon from the graveyard or special summon back from your extra deck, you can negate 1 monster in the field, including your own, which could come in handy. The reason it's in the deck is because if it's used as fusion material, you can just bring it back. And you can do that every single turn. You can do that during your opponent's turn. It's really useful because it's a 3k body that you can just constantly bring back as long as it's used for fusion material, which is really easy to do in this deck because we have a lot of cards that like allow you to fusion. We have one card, the Predaplant engine, we have the Invoked engine, we also have the Aluber, which can add the fusion spell. So this card's really easy to get like on the field and in the graveyard. I run it at 3. You can honestly run it at 1. Just having 1 seems like enough, but it's so powerful that you just want to see it, you know? It's like the Despia engine currently is not at max power. There's still a lot of cards that it needs, and a lot of those cards that it needs are probably the best cards that it needs. So we have to run the cards that are like good enough in order to make the deck as powerful as it could be. Albion, the Shrouded Dragon. Essentially this card, its effect is you can just send 1 spell from your deck to the graveyard. You can also send Albaz if you want him in your graveyard, if you want to do like shenanigans like that or combos. There's a lot of things you can do with this card. It's only a rare. I think running it at 3 is really good because what it can end up doing is it sends a card from your deck to the graveyard and then it like draws you another card, so it like replaces itself. So essentially it's like an upstart goblin, if you know what that is. It's like pay 1,000 life points, draw 1. It adds consistency to your deck. It's also a monster so you can use it as fusion if you want to. Just having the option there is useful. Also, if your opponent tries to Ash Blossom this, or they chain Maxx, which they have done to me, it doesn't like really do anything to this card. I've had somebody Ash Blossom this. I still send the card I want to send. The only thing is it doesn't go into the deck and I don't draw one, which isn't a bad thing because I could just use the effect again next turn. They go neg 1. And then I run back row removal because I do feel like this deck doesn't have inherent back row removal. I don't think any of the real fusions or any of the monsters have effects that say destroy a spell or trap, which means that you need to run a lot of cards that can get rid of spell or traps, because if you don't, you're gonna be overpowered by a trap deck, and that's really hard to get over in a deck like this. And then Foolish Burial, you don't need to run this card. It's an ultra rare. If you don't own it, you don't need to run it. I put it in because I wanted to test it out. In order to send Tragedy, if I wanted to get a spell card in my graveyard back on the field, or if I wanted to send Albion. But really, you don't need this card. And the one invocation to work with the Invoked engine. Simple enough. Like if your invoked guy is banished, you can just like return this to the deck and then add the guy to your hand. Then we run Lightning Storm. Lightning Storm's pretty OP because it can also destroy all spell and traps your opponent controls as long as you control no face up. So it's pretty much like Harpie's Feather Duster, except it can also be like a Raigeki, destroy all type position monsters your opponent controls. So it's useful. This is here, Magical Meltdown is here for the Invoked engine. It adds you Aleister, so it speeds up your engine a little bit. And then as for the Despia cards, which is really important, Despia Theater of the Branded is very, very, very powerful in this deck. Essentially what it is, it's searchable, so you're able to get to it really easily. It's a fusion summon card, so it allows you to fusion summon every single turn. So it's like having a polymerization or a card that lets you fusion every one of your turns. Also, it has like a good on-field effect where if a non-fusion fairy monster leaves your field by an opponent's card effect or being destroyed by battle, for some reason the Despia monsters are fairies, and they're really easy to get on the field, and you're going to have a lot of them on the field, honestly, like a majority of the time. And if it leaves the field, you can just target a fusion in your graveyard and special summon it back. That's good because if you look at the extra deck, a majority of the monsters are fusions. So what's going to end up happening is if your opponent tries to like destroy this guy or Aluber by battle, you're able to just bring back a fusion from your graveyard, and it's just like it's just kind of annoying to deal with because it really, like, your monsters don't die, they just keep staying. 2 Called by the Grave because it's like anti-meta, it's like a hand trap. It can get rid of like an Ash Blossom, a Maxx. It's just powerful to have, I feel like. And finally, for the last spell in the deck, Branded Opening. This card is pretty much like, it allows you to add a Despia monster to your hand, which is cool, but even better, you can add, or you can special summon a Despia monster to your field. And the reason it's so good is because it doesn't negate the monster's effect that you special summon. The monster doesn't die at the end of the turn, it's just straight up special summon a monster onto your field. And it has to be in defense, that's the only bad thing. But also, even though this card like says discard one, if your opponent Ash Blossoms it, you don't need to discard. Also, whatever you discard gets its effects. So let's say if you're running Despian Tragedy, this card does not get its effect if you discard from a cost, like from Albaz. Spell card does not use cost, so you're able to discard Despian Tragedy and get its effect off. Other archetypes that this card works well with is maybe if you want to try like a Dark World build. You can do that. This does not discard as cost. The Dark Worlds will trigger. This deck is absolutely crazy. And before I go into the extra deck, because the extra deck's a little wonky, I want to talk about the main deck. Because Despia is just so absurd. You can mix it into so many archetypes. You can combine so many things with it. You can combine it with Frightfuls. You can combine it with Dogmatica. You can combine it with so many things, and like it works just because the cards are good. You have a card that searches the spells. Also, if a fusion's destroyed, you can negate a monster effect. Powerful. You have a card that when it's used as a fusion material, you can special summon it. Also has a good on-field effect. Good stats. You have a card that when it's used as fusion material, you can add a monster. Also, you can banish it from the graveyard. Add a card. You have a monster that can send a spell from your deck to the graveyard. It's like, that's the cost. And also, like, it's just like such a good effect. It's good stats. It's like, it's just, and then the spell card is even good. Branded Opening, not only are you able to special summon from the deck or add from the deck to your hand, but it also protects your fusions while it's in the graveyard. You banish it if they're going to be destroyed by card effect. That has come up so many times. It's crazy. Honestly, if you're looking to build this deck, I'm going to be quite frank. These are the only cards you need. If you're looking to build this deck, these are legit the only cards you need. That's it. You just need these cards. This is like it. Anything else you don't really need. And in fact, the only card you really need 3 of is probably Aluber. Also, Aluber is just good in general. He's just amazing for the archetype. And you can put this engine into like almost any deck. And in terms of the extra deck, the only card you really need is Despian Tragedy. This is like the only card you need. The other ones, like this guy, he's not that good, I'm going to be honest. You don't make him really. It's hard to make these guys because you need Fallen of Albaz. And even though the dragon counts as Fallen of Albaz while it's on the field or in the graveyard, you're not going to be doing that effect much because I feel like you get more advantage from using the hand effect where he shuffles into the deck and you draw 1. Because it gets you more consistency. It also gets a powerful spell card in your graveyard which can protect your fusions. It's just very good overall. My thoughts on the deck are, the deck is incomplete. The deck is going to get better as masterduel introduces new cards. The deck is very good. It has extremely high potential to be even better. Because with every update, if they keep introducing new Despia cards, this deck is just going to incredibly get way better. Easy. Dude, they have so many good cards they haven't even released yet. And the cards they already released are very good. But so far, I don't think pure Despia is the way to play this deck. Simply because Despia does not have all the cards it needs. But you can mix Despia into different archetypes. Like you can mix it into Fluffals, because it's a fusion based archetype. Pretty much Invoked, Fluffals, Shaddolls, anything you can think of that uses fusions you can run in this deck. But other than that, this deck has a lot of potential. It's really cool. Should you buy into it right now? No, I would say no. I would say you should only go into this if you want to play an incomplete deck, because it's not complete yet. It's fun, and it's a lot of fun to play, and it's powerful, but it's incomplete. But yeah, I'll be going over one of the replays that I did, because I think it was a good replay, and let's jump right in. Okay, in this duel, you're going to notice a card that's different. I run Forbidden Chalice and Iris Sword Soul in this build. That's because I was testing out a lot of different builds during the recording process. And the card I used right away is Albion. I send a spell from my deck to the graveyard, and he's going to use Ash Blossom to negate it. The thing with this card is that I can send from the deck to the graveyard, and that's a cost, so you can't negate that part. So Ash Blossom isn't really going to do anything. It's going to stop this guy from going back to the deck, but that's bad for him because then I can just use the effect next turn and send something else. Also, I looked at all the branded cards available currently in the game as of recording, and this one seems like the best card you can send. Even though it's probably the most powerful and you want to have it in your deck, it's probably the best one you can send, simply because if a fusion monster would be destroyed by card effect, you can banish this card instead. And having it in your graveyard protects your fusions from cards like Raigeki or monster effects that destroy. So I want to get it in my graveyard because I'm going to be able to fusion summon. And right there, the spell card is going to special summon this guy from the deck. The guy's going to get his effect to search. Also, the monster that I discarded to activate the spell card is going to get me another monster. So I have a lot of effects. Also, next turn, this guy has a graveyard effect where I can banish him and set one of the spell cards. So that's really cool. I always add the field spell because either I add the field spell, or if you're running one trap or one of the Despia traps, or branded traps, I should say, you can add one of them or one of these. But I feel like the field spell is the best card you can add, because you want to be able to fusion summon as soon as you can, just because when you fusion summon, you're usually going to be able to bring out a fusion monster that has an effect where if he leaves a field, you can special summon something. Also, you're going to be able to get another fairy monster on your side of the field, because when they're used as materials, you get effects, like as you'll see right here. And then the field spell also has an effect where if your fairy leaves the field, you can special summon a fusion from your graveyard. So now, if you can't get rid of my field spell, my monsters float, meaning they'll continuously come back over and over and over, and that's very annoying, and I don't think anybody wants to deal with that. And I just set the Chalice. I don't remember if the Chalice comes up or not, and then he goes for turn. He's playing like a rank 3 deck, and he's going to try to spam out rank 3s. I'm saving the Chalice for like a big negate, but he's going to bring out Black Armor Full Master, which is unaffected by like everything. He's going to destroy the fusion. And I get the effect of this guy in the graveyard. So this is why Despia is kind of annoying, because when your fusion dies, you bring out the little guy who like searches your field spell, who you fusion with, and then this guy can negate a card effect. And then he just comes back on the field, and also, if he dies, which you'll see right away, the field spell activates, which brings back your fusion. So essentially, like, you don't really lose anything, and that's why I really like this deck, because it's super powerful. I'm able to activate Iris Sword Soul here. Iris Sword Soul came in a new pack, the same one that Despia cards came in. I was testing it out because I wanted to see if it was good enough, but currently it is not. With the new Despia cards do come out, this card will be absolutely really good, so I wouldn't disenchant her just yet if you plan on playing Despia, because there's still new Despia cards that need to come out, which will make this card very, very, very powerful. But right now, I shouldn't have ran her. She's not that good. But yeah, Harpie's Feather Duster, get rid of the back row. He's going to use Forbidden Droplets. Not a big deal because I can still fusion. I still have the field spell. And I also have this guy in my graveyard if I want to set one of the spell cards. I'm going to bring out this guy. If you're trying to play Despia, you probably pulled this guy. He's cool because when he attacks a monster, he like inflicts damage to your opponent, like equal to its attack or defense, whatever's highest. Also, you can special summon any monster from the extra deck in your opponent's graveyard as long as it's already been special summoned. That's important because, like, if they send something to the graveyard to get an effect like a Shaddolls monster or something, you can't special summon that. You can only banish it. As long as it's already been special summoned and it's like in the graveyard, it's summoned properly, you can special summon it to your side of the field. I'm gonna bring out this guy. Like, this guy just keeps coming back. The 3000 attack Despian monster, and then like right now I'm chilling. In fact, I could have used this guy's effect, but I think I forgot about it. And I'm gonna take his synchro monster that's unaffected by other card effects. So I'm in a really good position, and that's pretty much game. The deck can be played in multiple ways. It's very, very powerful. It's only going to get better as the game progresses. But yeah, I hope you liked the video. I want to be making a deck on other small archetypes that came in the box because I think it might be fun. And yeah, I hope you have a great day or night. Thank you so much for watching, and maybe I'll catch you later. Peace.